David, Alex, and Daniel had been best friends since childhood. They loved adventure and often explored places that other people avoided. They never believed in ghost stories, haunted places, or supernatural legends. To them, every mystery had a logical explanation. One summer afternoon, the three friends decided to visit Black Hollow Forest, a dense jungle that lay several miles outside their town. The forest had a frightening reputation. Local villagers warned everyone never to enter after sunset. They claimed people had disappeared there. Strange lights floated between the trees, and terrifying screams echoed through the darkness. David laughed at the stories. "People are just trying to scare us." Alex smiled. "Tonight will prove that there's nothing supernatural." Daniel wasn't completely convinced, but he didn't want to look afraid in front of his friends. They packed flashlights, food, water, a first aid kit, and a camera before driving toward the forest. The afternoon sunlight made the forest look peaceful. Birds sang from the branches, and a cool breeze rustled the leaves. Everything seemed perfectly normal. They walked for hours, taking pictures of waterfalls, ancient trees, and colorful birds. As evening approached, they realized they had wandered much deeper than they intended. David checked his GPS. No signal. Alex pulled out his phone. Mine too. Daniel looked around nervously. "I think we should head back." They started retracing their footsteps, but after nearly an hour, they somehow returned to the same enormous dead tree marked with deep, claw-like scratches. "This isn't possible," Alex whispered. David frowned. "We must have taken the wrong path." They tried again. Once more, they reached the same tree. Darkness slowly covered the forest. The cheerful sounds of birds disappeared. An unnatural silence surrounded them. Then, a distant scream echoed through the jungle. It sounded like someone crying for help. Daniel's face turned pale. "Did you hear that?" Another scream followed. This time, it was much closer. David tried to remain calm. "It's probably an animal." Suddenly, their flashlights flickered. The temperature dropped sharply. A thick white fog spread between the trees. Out of the mist appeared the silhouette of a woman wearing a long white dress. Her long black hair covered her face. She stood completely still. None of the friends dared to move. Alex slowly raised his camera. The moment he pressed the shutter, the woman disappeared. A loud whisper echoed around them. "Leave." The voice came from every direction at once. Daniel grabbed David's arm. "We have to run." They sprinted through the forest. Branches scratched their faces. Roots nearly tripped them. After several minutes, they stopped to catch their breath. The woman was gone, but something else had appeared. Hundreds of glowing eyes stared at them from the darkness between the trees. None of the creatures made a sound. The eyes simply watched. David shouted, "Who's there?" No answer came, only silence. Suddenly, every pair of glowing eyes vanished at once. Then footsteps began circling them. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Someone, or something, was walking around them, but nothing could be seen. Alex swung his flashlight wildly. "There!" For a split second, he saw a tall shadow standing behind Daniel. When Daniel turned around, nothing. The shadow had disappeared. Fear began taking control of all three friends. Hours passed. They walked without stopping. Yet every path somehow led back to the same dead tree. It was as though the forest refused to let them leave. Around midnight, they discovered an abandoned wooden cabin. The door hung open. Inside, they found old furniture covered in dust. A broken lantern rested on the table. On one wall, someone had written in faded red letters, "Do not follow the voices." As they read the warning, a familiar voice came from outside. "David." It sounded exactly like David's mother. David rushed toward the door. Alex stopped him. "Your mother isn't here." The voice came again. "David, help me." This time, Alex heard his own father calling his name. Daniel heard his younger sister crying. Each friend heard someone different. Something outside was copying the voices of the people they loved most. Remembering the warning, they refused to leave the cabin. The voices continued for nearly an hour. Then they suddenly stopped. Complete silence returned. Just before dawn, the cabin began shaking. The windows rattled violently. Heavy footsteps approached from outside. Boom, boom, boom. Something enormous circled the cabin. The wooden walls creaked under invisible pressure. Then everything became silent again. The first rays of sunlight finally entered through the broken windows. The fog slowly disappeared. David opened the cabin door. The forest looked completely different. The frightening atmosphere was gone. Birds were singing once more. A narrow dirt path stretched ahead. Without saying a word, the three friends followed it. After walking for nearly 30 minutes, they finally reached the forest entrance where their car was still parked. They had escaped. None of them spoke during the drive home. Each believed the nightmare was over. A week later, Alex checked the photographs from his camera. Most of the pictures were normal, but one image froze the blood in their veins. The photograph showed the three friends standing together near the dead tree. Behind them stood the woman in white. Her face was now visible. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was smiling directly at David. Terrified, they deleted every photograph from the trip. They promised never to return to Black Hollow Forest. Years later, forest rangers reported finding an old abandoned cabin deep inside the jungle. The strange part was that the cabin had collapsed decades earlier. According to official records, it no longer existed. Yet David, Alex, and Daniel clearly remembered spending an entire night inside it. Even today, whenever the three friends meet, none of them likes to talk about what happened in Black Hollow Forest. They all returned from the jungle alive, but each of them still wakes in the middle of the night after hearing the same whisper that once echoed through the trees. Come back.